Ag PhD full episodes and more are now available on Acres TV, the newest ag platform connecting you to fields of information. Look for us on watchacrestv.com.
If you have crop protection products left from the season, whether you are a farmer and you've got lots of them, or you're just a homeowner and you have a few things for, let's say it's your lawn or your garden, we're going to talk about storing those over the winter and how long they can potentially last.
First of all, with each of the chemicals that you may be using, there is an active ingredient in there, and that product has a temperature that it can be stored to. But I would just say this. Beyond those labels, and we'll talk about that too, beyond those labels, there's all the inert ingredients in those products. And sometimes those inerts can turn to little crystals, and even if the product itself is okay, the handling of it can become a problem.
Right, so Darren, to begin with, said active ingredient, then he said inert ingredients. Look, I don't really care about either thing exactly. What I do care about is the final formulation. So in other words, the jug that's in your shed, in your garage, in your house, wherever it is right now, that's what we care about. So if you look on the label, it will tell you what the minimum storage temperature is. In a lot of cases, it's 32 degrees, but there are some products that say 40 degrees. They want it 40 degrees. That's the minimum. But yes, there are a few products where there is no minimum storage temperature, so that's pretty nice.
All right, let me throw one other thing at you. Now, the product may be fine with no minimum storage temperature, but what about the container that it's in? Now, many of these containers come in a plastic jug. Well, think about plastic. When it gets below freezing, it can get kind of brittle.
Yep.
So I'm a little bit nervous if I've got a big poly tank or a plastic container, that if somebody bumps into that, that could be a problem.
Yep, or like Darren mentioned a little bit ago, some of those inert ingredients, they can rise to the top when this comes back into solution. In other words, when it warms back up again. So you may have to screen off your product. But anyway, don't get too worried with most of these ag chemicals. If you just simply store them at the right temperature, they can last for 20, 30, 40 years. That's the great thing with a lot of these products. They are not alive. But on the other hand, we do have biological products we work with a lot now, Darren, that they are alive. And if you don't keep them alive, well then, yes, they're absolutely no good.
Well, and ag chemicals basically have no shelf life. They could last 10 years. It's no big deal. But yes, if you have a living product, it probably has a 12-month life cycle or maybe a 24-month label. So pay attention to those things. If there is an expiration date, you probably want to honor that.
So once again, we just encourage you, check the label, see what that minimum storage temperature is, and even if there is no minimum storage temperature, we would still encourage you, if there's anything you've got that's a liquid product, we'd like to see it in heated storage, even if it has no minimum temperature. That way you're safe with the package that it's in, whether it's in a mini bulk tank or a 2.5 or 1 gallon plastic jug. You don't have to worry about it if it's in heated storage.
Well, you're definitely going to need some of those products if you want to control our weed of the week. We'll show you how to stop it coming up later in the show.